Hello, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about our book, Deckology, The Art of Deck Finishing and Carpentry. You can find it on Amazon.com. It's 90 pages, costs $10, of which all the proceeds go to Lima Creator Educational Fund. There are three things you need to know when it comes to deck finishing and deck carpentry. The first is obviously preparing the deck. The second is staining the deck, and the third is getting it done. Now when it comes to preparing, there are really three parts. There's repairs, there's cleaning, and then there's other ways of preparing the deck. So when we talk about repairs, there's obviously the deck boards. You've got to look at the deck boards, maybe they need some work, maybe the understructure needs some work, and maybe the handrails need some work. When it comes to cleaning, the key elements of cleaning are obviously to pressure wash, and pressure wash in a way that doesn't damage the board. And then the second thing to do is apply a mildewcide, or a fungicide as it's sometimes called, or brightener, which eliminates that mildew and prepares the surface. When it comes to staining, there are three things to remember. The first is choosing the stain, second is applying the stain, and the third is when to apply that stain. When you're choosing the stain, you have to make several choices. The first is, do you choose clear, semi-transparent, or opaque? That will depend on the length of the stain that you want, how beautiful the grain is, and how much you want to cover up. Second thing is, do you choose between oil-based or water-based stains, or the new hybrid oil and water-based? It seems strange, but it seems to work. And the third thing is, what color? I'm standing on the deck of Barbara Morgan. Barbara was very keen to get the right color to match the house and so on, and went through 6 color samples. That's rare. Normally we can choose and help you choose quite quickly. Then there's how to apply the stain. You've got to apply it on the deck in a certain way to put it down evenly, to get it into the edges, to give it maximum life. Staining handrails is pretty much always best done by spraying, but the problem with that is you've got to do a lot of shielding of surfaces. There's a knack to that too. And when it comes to things like arbors and benches, you have to be careful to choose a method that is cost effective and that really works. If in doubt, of course you're not necessarily in that position, but next time you build one, try to have it stained with super durable stain before you even put it up. It's a lot easier. When to apply a stain? Stain needs to be applied obviously not too early in the year, not too late in the year because of temperatures and because of moisture, but also it's very important to apply stain in the shade of the early morning or an early afternoon, or else in the shade of when the building is shading a certain area. And that is because if you look at the instructions on a stain can, it says do not apply in direct sunlight or when the temperature of the wood is above a certain temperature. That's very, very critical because the wood needs time to absorb that stain. Getting it done is the third part. So we've talked about preparing, we've talked about staining, we've talked about getting it done. Now getting it done really means, do you do nothing or do you get it refinished? Doing nothing is an expensive proposition. Most decks can only survive about 12 years before they fall apart, and then you have to spend a lot of money. Getting it refinished probably costs only 1/10 of that cost, so it's best when the deck gets grey to start refinishing it. So your next choice then is to choose, do you do it yourself or do you hire a contractor? Well, you may be a project sort of person, but most of my clients, they've done it once and they don't want to do it again. It's harder than you might think. We've made some mistakes. We've spent a lot of time fixing mistakes. We've learned an awful lot, and there's an awful lot that isn't written on the stain can, even if you know what it really means. Then, of course, you have to deal with how do you work with a contractor? How do you make it work for you and for them so that it works out mutually beneficial? I recommend you read this book. As I said, you can download it from our website or you can buy it from Amazon.com. It's 90 pages. It's everything I know that I can tell you about deck finishing and deck carpentry.